Hey, welcome to another episode. Okay, so today we are going to dig deeper into business plans and ideas. I do not know why that just not cool. All right, let's see. Open. Oh my goodness, my computer not happy. Everybody. All right, so you're gonna see me kind of looking in different atmospheres. I got three monitors. I got monitor. I got a bigger monitor way over here, but who cares? What's that? All right. So the start of the whole premise of everything that went on is that people told me all the time that you had to have all this money to get into business, right? And I've hit on it a few times, but now we're going to dig a little deeper. It's going to be this one's going to be a little in depth, but we're going to try to keep it short. So I'm going to talk fast and move quickly, right? All right. So I'm not going to be looking at the camera much because I'm going to be kind of bouncing around on because we're kind of editing while we film, right? So I need to come over here. Nope, that is not that. Let's do this and this. We're going to be getting to that, but I need to be here for this one. And then this one needs to be here. And photos. So what we're going to do is albums there. Keep. Nope. Keep. That'll work. Okay. Go to keep. And I need to get this. All right, now we're all set up. How about that? All right, we're gonna just run with it. Do not. Okay. That's so crappy. It's because I duplicated it, I guess. Well, I might as well just. We're gonna just do it this way because that didn't work. Wasn't the way I wanted it to go. Maybe I can here and capture method. Automatic. Match title. Otherwise, find a window of same type. Let's see. Okay, we're just gonna roll with it. All right. So what we need is I need to get to my photo album so I can add it here. Keep you small so I can see what's going on. All right. So the way this started was people used to always tell me, "Oh, you're rich. You're this, that, and the other thing." I'm not really rich. I do own my house and own my vehicles, and I have enough money in the bank or invested that I don't have to work right now. But that doesn't mean that I can take 50 years off. I don't have enough passive income for sure for that. But what but people see that I work 1 day a week or 3 days a month or 2 months and then don't work at all for a long time, and they think that I'm just exorbitantly wealthy. We own a 2,400 square foot house and we have all kinds of stuff, boat and whatever, boat, yacht, not big yacht, but a yacht nonetheless. And so I wanted to see if it actually takes money to make money, right? And so the principle is that yes, it takes a little bit of money, but it doesn't take much. And if you want to get a little unethical, it probably doesn't take any money at all, because you could probably borrow tools, or you could probably convince somebody to work for you for free in payment in the long term or whatever, right? And so you probably don't need to have money to make money, but for the premise of you doing it for yourself, you need a little bit, right? So in this instance, we started off with a tool that we already owned. And so let's just talk about it, right? So we let's see, what album? I need to get into this album here. Okay, so we had a hurricane. And I wanted to try to start this off with something that anybody could do. Like anybody could do. And if you live in a state, you can't do this. Like you can't just jump in and like, this is what I'm going to do. Maybe you need to find a different state. I live in Texas. I live in a rural part of Texas outside of Houston. Okay. So I'm close enough to Houston that if I need to go to Houston, it's not that big a deal. But I'm far enough away from Houston to not have to deal with all the bureaucratic stuff. Licenses, permits, so on and so forth. Right? We'll talk about that in a minute. Hurricane, this happened. All right. There was a bunch of other stuff that happened during the hurricane, but this particular tree fell on this house. Okay. There's actually a house underneath here, and you'll see that here shortly. If you've seen some of my other videos, I've already talked about it a little bit, but we're going to just roll with the punches here. I was walking around and I said, hey, I walked up to these people and I said, look, you got a tree on your house. Would you like me to remove it? I'll do my best not to hurt anything else, but I mean, obviously the tree's laying on the house, so like it's hurt, and you know, do you have insurance? So yada, yada, yada. And I gave them a price of all in like $3,200, give or take. Let me see here. I think it was boom, 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 boom. Yeah, $3,200. And I didn't have the equipment to do it. I did have a chainsaw. That's it. I had a chainsaw. And in this instance, I rented a tractor and I paid another tree service to help with some of the project with a boom truck. Okay. So I had the chainsaw already, but we'll say the chainsaw was, you could have got it at a pawn shop for $250. Paid a tree service $750 to help me, and I rented a tractor for $300. I conveniently, through moving forward, because how this all happened, I'm moving forward. I ended up negotiating terms with another client to manage the debris. Because this was a disaster situation, there were some certain things that were allowed that wouldn't normally be allowed. Let's put it that way. So they said yes, $3,200. And then I also have a friend that's in the insurance claims business. I turned them onto that, trying in an effort to try to get the rest of the construction on this job. The balance sheet for this went $3,200, $1,062.50 was out, so we made $2,137 in 2 days, maybe 3 days. The company made, right? At this point, we have made a company. So there's some paperwork that you need to do for insurance purposes and whatever else. We went ahead and made an LLC. In the state of Texas, I don't know if it's in the state of Texas only or whatever, but at the time, I'm a veteran. Veterans could make LLCs free. You just had to go through the process. It took me about a day and a half to make the LLC. Look it up. You have to like verify that you're a veteran, with the veterans people, and then you get a piece of paper, and then you have to do your articles of organization and so on and so forth. You send it all in. Poof, presto, chango. You have a meeting. You make members of your board, and you now have an LLC. So for the purpose of this example, our LLC is called Lake Area LLC. And we are organized under construction, but we basically do anything to make a buck, right? Because that's what you need to do when you're starting a company from nothing, right? Anything to make a buck. So, started with this tree. We'll get back to that here in a minute. Let's jump over to our spreadsheet. Yeah. I'll bring this over so it's in front of me, so I'm halfway looking at the camera. All right, so on the spreadsheet, first and foremost, we need to know how much money do we need to make, right? I call this a budget. You could call it a liability sheet. You could call it all kinds of different things, but it's basically this is what I have to need, right? Or this is what I have to have. The main stipulation, so to speak, maybe y'all can see that. Hopefully y'all can see it. The main stipulation, so to speak, is there's what I call a series of thresholds. Like, am I by myself? What things can I live with and what things can I live without? Am I a smoker? Am I an alcoholic? Am I, do I have to have new clothes? Do I have to have these things? You need to put everything that makes you happy as a person in this. If you have other people involved in your life, that has to be a conversation that you have, right? You need to have a conversation with your wife. You need to have a conversation with your kids, like in a ways and means that like make sure that everybody's thresholds are at least met, right? Because if you don't have those conversations, all you're going to do is have a whole bunch of problems in your life because people around you will be uncomfortable or you will be uncomfortable. And if you're uncomfortable and the people around you are uncomfortable, then everybody's uncomfortable and nobody's having any fun, right? So first and foremost, you need to identify what the thresholds, like how low can I go and still be happy, right? And what that number, this is just my number, right? And I'm doing it in a very simplistic form, right? But so our house costs us about $1,500 a month. That's insurance, payments, utilities, all of it, right? Now, granted, I don't have a mortgage on my house. I own my house. But in many situations, you maybe could live with your parents. You maybe could do, depending on what your thresholds and stuff are. Maybe you could have this less, maybe you could be in a house and rent out 2 or 3 rooms and have that. I don't know, but there's ways to get that less. Food for our family right now, we only have 3. I have 3 that are already exited the family, not exited, but college and beyond. But $650 a month in food. Now we don't eat out ever, hardly any, right? We eat a lot of rice. We just do. It's cheap. We enjoy it. We have very good, healthy meals, and we don't eat a lot of processed food. It's all, ingredient-based food and whatnot. Gas. Now, this is an absurdly low number, having run other businesses, but this business design is 100% in my own subdivision. I can walk to almost every job I do, right? So I have no commute. Why did I do that? Well, I'm starting with nothing. So let's make it easy. Let's do everything right here. So there's 116 houses in my immediate subdivision. And I don't leave it. Honestly, I don't leave it. I'm just going to put it that way. I don't leave it right now. There's no need to. It's an extra expense, and I can meet my needs within it, right? So as you'll see, this is very creative ways to how do I want to say this? Very creative ways to make a whole lot of money all in one little place, right? So basically, I have to go to church once a week with the wife. We go to the grocery store once a week. Baseball season, we have baseball. That number goes up a little bit, but the rest of the time, it's literally, if I have to go get supplies, it's 6 miles down the road and back. A lot of the supplies I try to have ordered in and delivered. So gas, household is, toilet paper, whatever else. That's probably a high number. I just threw it in there. Maintenance, again, it kind of goes back to household, oh crap, we need door handles or light bulbs or light fixture quit working or, whatever. Try to figure out how to do this all on your own. Extras, just whatever, $100. That's not very much money, but anyway, so it comes out to, this is bare minimum. This is what we can live with wherever we're, where we're at. $2,810 is our budget. That's $33,000 a year, or $16.21 an hour to break even. Figuring on a tax, I think I put in like 32% taxes at $21.40 an hour. Okay. Generally speaking, I'm going to try to build businesses. We're not doing that right now because we have some big travel plans, so we're not hiring a bunch of people. But generally, we are building businesses, and the definition of business in my terms is that I'm not doing all the work. I'm paying somebody else to do all the work or most of the work. So right now, I'm the guy that's being paid to do all the work just because I don't want the liability of managing a bunch of people, and I don't want to affect other people's lives with this project. A little about me. I'm in pretty reasonable health. I'm kind of overweight, but not extremely overweight. I'm very strong. I've been an athletic build most of my life. I'm 46 years old, so I'm pretty dang old to be wrestling with trees. Um, uh, got people wanting me to do stuff for them. So anybody can do this. I mean, you could be. It's just based on your desire. Essentially, it's based on your desire. So I've come up with a price point of $21 an hour and $21.40 an hour is what I need to make. Okay. Um, know your market, right? So that's the next thing. Let's see. Okay, that's cool. That'll work. X.com. I'm gonna just use X because I gotta sign in. Hold on. Forgot I did this. I would try that. Let's try not to dock myself here. Okay. Well, let me do something. I'm going to turn off that browser for a minute. We will just do it like, actually, go back. I'll turn that back on. I will. There we go. All right. Again, we're going to have hiccups because this is kind of a live editing thing. I had to delete all my cookies earlier. And, so now they want to have all my information back again. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see. I don't know my password. This is great, people. There it is. Finally. All right. Use your AI, especially the free ones, okay? Use them. Like, if for no other reason what I'm about to use them for, but there's many other reasons to use them. Let's see. Where am I at? There we go. Okay, let's get this back. Okay, so here's Grok. I can't do this. Anyway, we'll fix that later. Ask him anything, right? Hey, Grok. We will say I live in Southeast Texas, north of Houston. This is going to be a tree service, but we're going to say starting a contracting company in general, ERL, general, handyman, and construction jobs. How much should my company charge per hour to be a self-sufficient company with 3 employees making 20-hour, and let's see, 20 an hour, and make sure to account for ups and downs in income in jobs. So we can fill in the gaps with excess income, i.e. I need to make full 40-hour weeks. I might go down to 2 employees. That's more realistic to what we're doing. 40-hour weeks. Even if I don't have all the jobs for that. Let's see what he says. So anyway, use your AI. I mean, they are AI, but you know, whatever. It's almost just like a search engine that's allowed to, you know, but to determine. So anyway, he's gonna come back with stuff, you know, 20-hour a week, $41,000 a year times 2 is $83,000 a year. Social Security 6.2, yada yada yada, right? 6%, 7,000. So you see, so he's going to lay it all out, you know, your Social Security, all this stuff, payroll taxes, compensation, owner payroll taxes, you know, on and on and on, insurance, liability. This is actually high, but whatever. Vehicle cost per month. I mean, he's laying it all out, right? This makes life so much easier. I will say he's generally a little low, but my thresholds are pretty low too. So he said total overhead costs about 30,000. Account for job inconsistency. Billable hours per employee is 30 hours times 52 is 15,000. Okay, so yeah, I like that. The labor cost for 2 employees 135,202. So on and so forth. Overhead costs is this. So we're talking about $163,000 a year. 15% because we'd like to make profit. I get it. $187,000 of revenue. That's a so $60.18 an hour is what he's saying. And then so crew hourly is 120, right? This is actually spot on. Like I literally charge $125 an hour. That's what my estimate is. So like that's what I'm looking for. So you can go down. You say yeah. If you adjust for the rates, it's right in there. Okay. Final pricing. So use your AI, right? Your AI is going to help you with a lot of stuff. At first, you're going to probably have to be a little cheap. I'll teach you some ways to be more effective in your pricing, especially if you get into the Patreon, which we haven't got going yet, but we will. Okay. So use AI, right? They're going to help you immensely. You're going to find something in there that you didn't account for, so on and so forth, right? Don't know why that's closing. So that's our budget, right? We know that we're going to charge $125 an hour. So we start back with the tree. Let me see. I got to think about this now. I got to find my photos. Oh. Why did you close? Maybe you're over here. Maybe that's why. Anderson Project photos. Okay. Really, I had this all set up. Are you sure you want to? So here we are. We're on photos, right? And we started out with this tree, and I started thinking, I was like, okay. Now I know my skills, right? Know your skills. Don't ever say you can't do something. Like if you say, oh, I can't cut up that tree. Well, could you hire somebody else to cut up that tree and make a little bit of money off it? Right. That's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. Somebody's going to make money on that tree. Like that is going to happen. You know, um, that tree right there. That tree and there. Oh goodness. That was actually during the hurricane. I don't know if you can see it. It's still windy. But things that need to happen on this tree, right? First of all, you have to cut the tree off the house. That's expensive. It's risky. You're trying to do it without it damaging it anymore. It's heavy. It's dangerous. That's all upcharge. Like that's all reasons to charge more money, right? Secondly, you got to get rid of this stump, which I bet this is about, with everything included, like all the dirt and everything else, I bet you're looking at 5,000 pounds, right? How are you going to haul it? What are you going to do with it? I'll touch base on that here in a minute. But so these are all considerations when it comes into how much you're going to charge. What are you going to do with the debris? Know the rules, right? There's rules governing what you can do with tree debris, right? The two major ones are is you can burn it on the property that you take it down on. So if it's okay with the homeowner, you could cut it up and burn it right here. And, or maybe, if in this case, the concrete was damaged, maybe they let you burn it on the concrete. I don't know. But you can burn it on the property that you take it down on, or you can use it for something, right? Like you could turn it into mulch, you can turn it into firewood, you can turn it into lumber. If you can come up with a reason why it is a useful item and you can resell it, then more power to you. So those are two of the rules. Otherwise, you got to haul it to the landfill. If you have to haul it to the landfill, our landfill here charges by the pound. So like, that's a big deal. It can be expensive. Well, as a matter of fact, we'll get to that here in a little bit. But so in this circumstance, they accepted my bid. We got to work. We cut up the tree. We got it off the house. We got them started in the insurance process. They got paid by insurance for the tree work. And we got fortunate because when this uprooted this tree, it also damaged this house over here's septic system. And so a septic guy came out and he was very generous and he had to move the stump anyway. So he asked us, once we had gotten basically all the way to here cut off, it was cut off the house, right? He asked us if we could finish cutting this stump up so that he could get the stump out of the way. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that if you take care of the stump. And so he did. And he just billed it to this customer because the property line is like right here. Well, about right here. So most of this stump is actually this other houses anyway. So he took care of the stump. That saved me a bunch of time and effort that, allowed me to make more money. So, another picture, a little bit of the pictures of the damage. Here is the pictures of, this is sewer water on the ground. This is where the stump was after it's been removed. So this is what we were left with. It was awesome. These are all pictures of like the damage that we took. Fence was damaged, so on and so forth. Before we get too far in this, because the insurance takes time, right? But these are this is roof damage. I'm just kind of scrolling through, seeing what we see here, right? We got paid to put a tarp on the house, but what I'm going to do here, we're going to go backtrack here and let's stay with the trees because that's what started all this, right? So, I wasn't expecting to do YouTube on all of this initially. So there were a lot of trees that were down. It was it was a hurricane. There was a lot of damage. There was also a ton of dead trees, man. There was a bunch of pine trees, like you can see right here. Like this guy right here, like just dead pine trees that were standing. Roughly 44 of them in this subdivision, okay? And so what I did was, obviously there was a bunch of houses that had trees that were knocked down. We went around and we bid all of it. And we bid it very competitively. Like, there's two different ways you could have done this. I'm limiting myself to not leaving this subdivision because I wanted I wanted to keep my logistics as simple as possible, right? Travel logistics, everything else, right? So I was like, there's $75,000 worth of work here. I bet I can do it for about 50. And I bet I can get all of it. And I think if I do it for 50, because I don't have 30% of the overhead of traveling and advertising and this and that and all this other stuff, I can stand to make a bunch of money right here. And so what we did was, this is a good picture. So I went out and I got them all. It was like 46,000 something. I have most of it in the spreadsheet. I didn't actually upload my accounting information. I just have it kind of roughly in the spreadsheet, but I can show you here. Let's see where we're at. So trees, we did, I got 41,900. I could remember off the top of my head. I just made this spreadsheet here earlier. Again, remembering off the top of my head, I had about $15,000 in expenses. So we made $25,962 on trees in 1 month. So we went from having $0 to bidding a project that with a chainsaw, that we had like a $250 chainsaw, seeing an opportunity and saying, hey, look, I can expand this $4,000 or $5,000 whatever into a business like that, right? And so because I had no because in this instance I used no capital out of my own pocket, I didn't just go out and hire people. Most of the time, I would just, at this point, when I sell the project and I bid it out, I would have bid it out higher by maybe 10%. Yeah, probably about 10% higher. And I would have just hired out that labor. And then I would have just managed it, and I would have taken home less money. I wouldn't have got 25,000. I probably would have got 15,000. But I would have been free to make money doing other things. And that's an important part of business, right? So, here we are with those numbers, right? And the way that I managed this was I basically put it over here in capital expenses, and we'll get into that right now. Okay, so at that point, I had all these jobs sold, and I had already done some research, and I knew that to rent a 60-foot man lift was $3,500 for the month, right? I knew I needed that. The chipper and sawmill come later. I didn't know I needed those originally. The climbing equipment, I actually didn't pay this, but this is what is new, so I put it in there. And that's like spurs and a safety belt and harness, just kind of PPE stuff that I needed to have. And then other chainsaws. I ended up having a pole saw and another smaller saw, and then the bigger saw that I started with, right? So it cost me about $10,700 in capital expenses, right? And these two we'll talk about here in a minute. So jobs were sold. I found a buyer, right? Put them under contract. Said, hey, I'm doing this. I need you to sign this because I have to go buy things and pay for things, or at least say that I'm going to pay for them because you said you're going to do this work, right? Got them all under contract, and away we go, right? And we end up, let's see, I want to go. Open note. So my computer keeps shutting one of my windows for no apparent reason. I don't know why. Okay. And we're going to come here, go. Okay, there. Now you should see that. All right, so here we are with the photos. And so we're just going to run through it. You can see all these stumps, right? Stump. This one yard had like 6 trees, right? Here's another big oak tree. You know, cutting just trees after trees after tree. We'll get back to that. 2 more trees. This one's dead, and this one got left, you know. There we are cutting. This one was a live one. We ended up having to cut this one because it was leaning towards, well, what house is this? I don't know why we ended up cutting that. Oh no, it's dead. That's why. It's a dead tree. Okay, so there were just tons of them everywhere, right? There's a tractor we rented. Now, granted, we had a screaming deal on the tractor, but 3 or 4 trees here. Here's a stump, right? Saw an opportunity with the stumps because originally we didn't bid the stumps, so I ended up going around asking everybody, hey, if I get a package deal, we got 48 trees that are, 48 stumps. If I get a package deal on a stump grinder, would you be interested? And they're like, yeah. We figured out how much that was going to cost, figured there was quite a bit of money to be made. So I rented a stump grinder. Here we are doing more tree work, right? And literally it was me and my wife. I was up in the tree and she was kind of clearing debris, and then I was using the tractor to move logs. The debris part of it was a big deal, right? Remember earlier I said, as long as you're going to use it for something, right? As long as you are, as long as you're going to use it for something, or you burn it on their property. Other than that, you have to haul it, period, end of sentence, right? So we got very, very, very fortunate that the majority of this work were all trees that were either on or around the exact same piece of property. So like we could put a burn pile on a property line and burn trees from 2 different properties that were burning in the same burn pile, right? That was one key. The other key was we only burned the brush. We didn't burn the logs. And that was because I figured that if I bought a sawmill, let's go back here. The weight of all the material, all it was going to cost like 30% more. Like I would have had to bid the job at like $85,000 just to make the amount of money that I was going to make, $25,962 if we hauled it. Plus, we're going to have wear and tear on vehicles. We're going to have a trailer. We're going to have all these things. Now, I actually have these things, but for the purpose of what's going on, I was trying not to use things because not everybody has trailers and so on and so forth, right? So I decided we'd buy a sawmill. Now, all of this didn't happen overnight. Like I took the tree off of the house, but all the dead standing timber didn't happen overnight. Like I had like 2 weeks to try to get everything in order, and then we just made it go. All the time I was selling more projects while we were trying to get it all together, get the lift out there, get the saws, and get the tractor, and get maintenance done on things, and made sure everything was working right? Because I had a timetable on the lift, I needed to make sure that that everything rolled very, very flawless. I couldn't have a week where we couldn't work because I was paying for a lift, but I didn't have the stuff, right? I didn't have a backup saw, or I didn't have this, that, or the other thing. I had to have it all my ducks in a row. And so the way this worked was we had all the brush was going to be chipped. That was original planning, was we were going to chip it. So we bought a chipper, right? And so if we come over here and we look at browser window and we go back to the spreadsheet, you'll see that we have a chipper on there. A chipper costs like $1,500, right? It was used, found it on Facebook Marketplace. It was like a $4,000 chipper. It was in great shape. I liked it. Chipping sucks, and it's slow, and it's terrible work. And really and truly, even though it was a nice chipper, I'll show you what it was. Even though it was a nice chipper, it was not enough of a nice chipper. It needed to be a lot bigger to do what we needed it to do. Let me see. I thought I had a picture of it here. I know you can see some chipping at some. No. That's a stump grinder. We rented that. That was like $375 for the weekend. That was a deal. I got it for the whole weekend, and I took care of all kinds of stuff. There we go. Here's a chipper. I'll just pause it. So that was the chipper. There's another tractor that we rented, and we were chipping mountains of this stuff. And the thought process was we were going to chip it and just give it away to people, you know, but it was just too much. So we only chipped the stuff that we couldn't burn wherever it was. You know, we couldn't negotiate to have it burned on the other people's property, and we couldn't come up with another solution for it. So we chipped it, right? We chipped a lot. I think we probably chipped about 6 dump truck loads full of stuff. Like, we chipped a lot. This was kind of cool because this chipper we sold, right? We bought it for $1,500. We used the heck out of it. And we turned around and sold it for $2,200. We made a profit on the sell, and we used the heck out of it. That was a good deal for the company. It actually covered the cost of that, or using that tractor. It was a friend's tractor. We just paid some money for it. We actually now own it, but totally different story. Let me make sure y'all are seeing what I'm seeing. Okay, cool. So, long story short, right? So then the other process I had was I had all this timber. I had all these logs, right? You can see them all here. All these logs. I have a lot more than that, actually. That's about half. I had to take down my batting cage because I needed somewhere to work. So we just took down the batting cage. It's not like complete. It's actually back up now, but long story short, we needed it. So I found this sawmill. This is a Wood-Mizer sawmill. They're well-renowned. They're great sawmills. And it was stupid cheap. It was in Missouri, though. I had to go to Missouri to get it. It cost me like $3,500, which is stupid cheap for one of these. It's a very old sawmill, but it was in working condition, had a good motor. This is actually the first big log this was huge log. This log weighed almost like, I want to say it was 52 inches across. So it weighed like 5,000 or 6,000 pounds. It was so heavy. So the tractor almost wouldn't carry it. Like, we literally almost scraped it all the way home. Getting into other projects here. I was just looking. So there we go. So we have a sawmill that we bought, and we have a lift that we rented. We bought a couple chainsaws, and we, what else? And we just went to work, right? And we busted our tails. I'm telling you, we busted our tails. But we had a business, right? And this is how the math works. Like, if you go back to the spreadsheet, let me get the spreadsheet up. This would have been a lot easier if it worked the way I wanted it to, but I'm going to just roll with the punches here. You go back to the spreadsheet, right? And you look at the budget, you're going to see we need to make $2,800 a month, right? Roughly budgeted. And we made, haven't done any more since. So we made $25,962. That's over and above paying Amber and I $6,400. Okay, so the company made $2,500 or $25,600, so $26,000, and we paid my wife and I both $3,200. Right. So the way I work this, and I don't know if this is right, but this is how I've always worked it, and this, I'd be very, I haven't found a better way to do it. Right. So we're gonna look at some math here, right? So Amber and I actually made $6,400, and then the company made $26,000, right? If we take this number and we look at this number, let's just divide this number. Well, I'm going to do it this way just so I can teach y'all too. Another thing y'all might say is, or people say is, oh, I don't have to know how to do all the accounting and stuff. You don't have to. You can do all this on paper, right? But so we're going to take this 6,400 number and we're going to divide it by this 2810, right? And so all you do is equal sum, right? And then I can just click on this, but I can also go 6,400 divided by 2810, right? And that gives me 2.27 months, right? So Here's how this works. Just because I made a ton of money in a very short period of time, I don't know if that's going to happen all the time. So instead of going out and saying, "Oh, dude, I made 26 grand. I'm gonna go buy a car. I can finance a car. I can finance this. I can finance that." You can do that if it's business oriented, like not buy a new car, but buy things that make the business easier and that you're going to make the profit off of immediately, or at least out in the future. But for me, I look at it and say, okay, I just bought 2.25 months. That means as of today, just in the money I made, this is the money I paid myself. I'm not including this money yet, right? Just in the money I made myself, I can pay myself for I can pay my expenses for my normal budget for 2.25 months. And that just changes the way you think about things. I don't have to go to work again for 2.25 months. But then it even gets better, because then you take that $2,810 and you divide it into this 2,600, right? And so we'll just do that here, equal sum, right? And I'll just grab this and this. No, I'll go divided by. I did it wrong. Hold on. Equals sum. This divided by this. Make sure you close your parentheses. All right. So that's 9 months. I actually don't, if I don't change anything about my life, I can live for 9 months off of this company, just paying me salary of 40 hours a week, $20 an hour, or whatever it was, right? No, I take that back. A salary based on $2,810 a month, right? Plus the 2 months that I already have. So it's 11 months. It's almost a year, right? We basically, those numbers don't actually add up perfectly, but they do actually. 4,000, it's 32,400, and it says we need 33,720. So basically we bought ourselves a year right there, 1 month. Okay. Now, we also, remember, we have this job, the original tree job, that ends up turning into a $64,000 job, right? We make, after everything and all things concerned, we make another $24,750, right? And so, but that's how you do it. That's all there is. It's like, you get out there, you see an opportunity, you make a plan, and you execute the plan, and you end up in business, right? So let me delete these. We don't need them. Delete. 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 So people, so this is the general construction, right? And so it all started with the trees, right? Did the trees. This was basically 1 month in trees. Now, trees is hard labor, high risk, and it's something in my opinion, I have to be there, because I'm the mechanical engineering mindset that has to make sure that people aren't going to get hurt, that property is not going to get damaged, so on and so forth. And so this, even though it's a highly lucrative thing, very demanding of me being there. And so this was never meant to be a full-time thing. And since, other than the sawmill, we've sold everything. Well, and saws. I kept the saws and the climbing gear and the sawmill. So there's reasons for it. Those particular items fit into other things that we're doing. But the rest of it is just kind of sitting there. If I ever needed to go back to do it, we know how to do it, right? But I have to physically be part of this service. So like, we try not to do trees unless there's just an overwhelming opportunity again. So we focused on our general construction side, and that was the main project, was the Anderson project, right? And so let me pull up I need to be here. Oh yeah, we're in the trees. Okay. Where are you? goodness. Having all these screens is a blessing and a curse. I promise you. Okay, so let's get back to the Anderson project here. So month one, we're sitting well in the positive. Got this project ready to go, right? Get the tree off. We document, we help them out, get all the insurance data. You can see all the damage here, so on and so forth. Now this takes a while, right? And meanwhile, we're kind of doing some other things, but we're gonna, for timeline purposes, we're just gonna throw this in there. So the next major thing that we do is this project, right? And here we are. We've got the project. Now we're starting to rebuild rafters and get everything back in. And you're like, hey, what if I don't know how to do that? Well, this is an insurance job. So there's plenty of money there. Like the insurance jobs, they are required to pay you, so you bid it appropriately, man. And if you don't know how to bid it, then you just get bids. If you don't know how to do it, you get bids on to do it. You tack on your 15% or your 20% or your 30% markup, and away you go. Send it to the insurance company. The insurance company fights it. Then that's a whole battle that has to happen. That's what happened here. And these people made out like a freaking killing, right? So let's use this picture for example. Things that we didn't think that the insurance were going to pay for that they paid for. Gutters. Not only did they get this gutter, right? But we got them to give them all the gutters on the entire house, right? The other thing is that the damage was pretty consistently on all of this, right? Original bid was to replace this part of the roof and a few shingles on this roof back here. They got the entire roof on both buildings. So they got new gutters on the entire house and they got new roof on the entire complex, right? I had originally bid to replace this concrete, right? But with the insurance bid, we ended up being able to replace this concrete and this concrete. This was like a $3,000 or $2,000 upcharge, which was stupid cheap for them. And they did it. So we ended up making more money on the project because we added an upcharge. Like, hey, I already got the concrete guys here. This concrete's already in bad shape. It was all cracked to pieces. Like they didn't even have to crack it to pull it out. They just picked it up and pulled it out. So they ended up getting, and you'll see here shortly. The other thing is that weight of the tree, it didn't break any, well, it broke one window, but it didn't like break them, like outright break the glass, but it stressed the frames so that they were all sagging. Like every frame on these windows were sagging. So they ended up getting, out of the 7 windows, they got 5 new windows. Another thing we did, this was kind of a gift from us because we were actually making so much money. We didn't have to do this, but remember, I'm only doing work in this subdivision. That's it right now anyway. The only advertising we have is this sign right here. That's it, right? We made that ourselves because my wife has a silhouette. But it would have cost us, what, $100, let's say, make 4 or 5 signs. Put it on every job site we did. When we did the trees, that was something I figured in. So we ended up with like 16 signs because we had like 10 or 12 job sites going at the same time. And every one of them. So in this neighborhood, every street you went down, if you walked around the neighborhood, all you saw were our signs everywhere, right? And it cost us a little bit of money, but it wasn't that much. And it just brought more work, right? So long story short, we rebuilt it all, right? There's the roofing stuff. The roofer shows up. They take care of business. All new shingles. Those are 50-year shingles, right? There's the other roof. Concrete guy shows up. He takes care of his business. I don't know how to concrete. I don't know how to roof. I made money on both of them, right? Not obscene amounts of money, but money, right? We did some yard work. We did some work to level out all this, get it all back where it needed to be. Them pouring. While we were there, we were getting ready to do the gutters, and we noticed that they had a lot of damage. And so we talked to them, and we're like, hey, we'll we can do this for X amount of dollars more, and they accepted, and we did it. They had some, some odds and ends stuff that were obviously not good. So we asked them if we could get rid of it, and they said yeah. So we did. It's just, taking care of business, right? A simple thing to do here is also like make sure. Now this is an extra. Also, we had a short piece of fence that we had to do. I'll show you this right here. We had to do this piece of fence. That's it, right? Insurance paid us. Well, not even insurance. Insurance paid us to do these 8 boards and this fence and this gate. We contacted this homeowner and asked them if they wanted us to finish out the fence because the whole fence had been knocked down. And so they paid us an extra amount of money to do this part of the fence. Once we did this, the original homeowner's like, hey, can you do the rest of the fence for the same price that they gave you for the insurance money? And I'm like, heck yeah, because the insurance money was a premium. So we ended up doing this whole fence here at a premium, and everybody was happy. And it looks beautiful. It's cedar fence, right? Finishing out. I don't want to get too long and drawn out. Okay, I mean, it's a good picture, right? New concrete. Look at everything. Everything looks good. Woohoo. Doing interior work. Getting all the stuff. Okay, so we painted the house, and with cedar, you don't really want to paint it. It ends up being a bad thing, so it's stained. So new windows in, everything's sealed up. We're getting everything trimmed out now. This was actually extra. We didn't charge extra for it, but this was extra because they weren't trimmed out before. But I wasn't going to leave it like that because that's a testament to our work. And if it looks shitty, then you're not going to get the jobs, man. Period. So again, the outside of this was not trimmed out either, but we went ahead and trimmed that out. And we did all that for free within the insurance scope of the insurance. There's the final product of the outside. Right? How about that for a difference? It took us, this part of the project, we were start to finish 2 months. No, not even that. I bet start to finish, because we did the roof. So we fixed the main structure, the roof, and the concrete in the first week and a half. I bet we were a month and a half for the fence and all that. And then I opened my mouth. The outcome is beautiful. But I was like, hey, I have a sawmill and we have your tree. And I've already cut up your tree and it's been sitting for because this whole process has been about 6-8 months. It's like, it's dry enough to use. Why don't I just, because she was talking about having wood floors in here. I was like, why don't I, and it wasn't in the insurance bid. So why don't I just make your wood floors for you? Dumb idea. And so here's the process of making the wood floors, right? And so this is their tree, and it was a red oak, and we were making it. They wanted it really rustic looking, and so we were just. This is, we're talking about. These were pictures I was sending to them as to what we were doing and what they thought. Ripped out the old carpet. We actually sold that, so we didn't have to haul it off. That's $50. Here's the oak flooring, right? We ended up buying some of it. We didn't use all of their tree because it wouldn't. I couldn't get the milling right, and we spent way too much time on this. But this sucker, it ended up beautiful, just what they wanted, right? There you go. There you go. A lot of sanding because they wanted, this is number 2 red oak. They wanted all the mill marks. They wanted all the discoloration, right? Here we are mopping on the poly. That's so pretty. The only downside is because a lot of these longer pieces are the pieces that actually came out of the tree. And a lot of these shorter pieces are stuff that came from the mill. And generally speaking, the mill stuff was all 18 to 24 inches. So I'm really glad that we had the long pieces to put in. The problem is the longs are the harder ones to put in because they all have like warps and twists and cups and all kinds of stuff. But ends up beautiful, right? We painted all this, we painted all that. I mean, a lot of work. Finished product. Everything's back and they're done. Now, total project by the time we got done with the floor is like 3.5 months, but we weren't there every day. So the flooring took 4 days, and we did not make $1 on the flooring. It's beautiful, but we didn't make any money on it. But that's the calling card. This is our advertising. They're going to show that to everybody. That's why we do things like that. So like I'm not gonna take on a job where I'm not gonna make any money on something unless it's something that is gonna showcase the work so that somebody else is gonna call for us, right? That's an important thing because there's 2 ways you can get the advertising. You can get the advertising by paying for it, and you can get the advertising by people telling you, hey, this is what we did. Let's see. Trying to kind of jumping ship here. Another insurance job. One of the tree services that we hired to do some tree work for us. They did a great job. We did this deck. I was trying to see if I had a finished product, So it's just, just general construction stuff that filled in the pieces, right? All right, so let's jump back. We started off with a tree. We made like 20 some odd $1,000 with the tree. Let me boom. Window. So long and short, right? Let's see. I'm reading this here. Made 25 grand on the trees. We made $42,000 on general contracting. Sawmill has made about $2,600. That's over and above the cost. So basically we made $8,500 and then you subtract out the capital costs and that's $2,600. And we got a couple so we have some other things that really haven't made that much. We got the streaming and YouTube, which has netted like $350, which is pretty good, really. Better than what I thought. This is actually a big money maker for me, but that's something that we're going to talk about later, so I'm going to leave it out. This is something that I've had going for a while. What else? Maybe I should bring this down so I'm looking. Maybe y'all can't see what I'm talking about. Okay, so again, we're going to talk real quick and say trees for 41,000. These are gross income, so 42,000, 87,000 in general construction. Streams about 400, sawmills about 8,500, and then lawn care. Lawn care is pretty interesting, right? Out of the tree money profits, we bought a lawnmower, like a commercial lawnmower. Again, we bought it used, and we bought a commercial weed eater. That's it. And the thought process initially was that when we were doing the trees, we were getting a bunch of work just because we had signs in people's yards. And we had done such good work for everybody that we had good rapport with customers, and all of them were paying somebody to mow their lawns. And so I was like, man, if we could just capture or at least get these people paying us month after month after month after month or week after week after week after week, then we're going to capture a lot of that business. And so we started mowing lawns solely for that principle, where as it was great advertising, we were out there being busy, we could put signs. It was part of our negotiation. It was like, if we want to put a sign in your yard for a week, we can put a sign in your yard for a week, and where would that be fine? And, everybody came up with a place in their yard that they were okay to have a yard sign for 1 week a month, right? And so, again, in this 116 home subdivision, we have 13 yards that we mow, at any given time have a sign advertising that we are working here. So, and we're making $8,480 a year to advertise. It's great, right? Our next projects, obviously we're trying to build the YouTube, so please like and subscribe. And if you're this far in, let me tell you, you got what it takes. We just purchased a 3D printer. There's a video on that. It's Bamboo Labs X1C. We also purchased, well, we have a CNC, which is a Maslow floor. That'll be our next live stream, and we'll do another live edit on that. Because we have to put it together. It's one of the cheapest large format CNCs that you can buy. That being said, you got to put it together, and it's gonna be a rodeo circus. But the idea, well, I'm not even gonna tell you the idea. You'll have to watch those videos to figure that out. But if you like this content and you want to learn more, like and subscribe. If you have questions, you can throw them in the comments here, right? We're trying to get the subscriptions up so that we can live stream here, because we can't live stream here yet. But if you have questions, catch us on our live stream on Kick. It's the Gunner stream on Kick. And I'm on daily streaming. You can come in anytime and ask me questions. I don't care. And we'll just have a conversation. A lot of times we're gaming, we're playing, whatever in the evening times, blowing off steam, or we're live streaming in real life stuff. So catch us there. And until then, go out and make some money. Make it happen. Thanks for your time.